What up, everybody? Scuffy here, and it's December. It's been an interesting month. It's been a busy month. It's been a good month. Just a quick catch up. We're in week 2 of Word Bears Week. Word Bears Week is so big that it ends up being 2 weeks. Last weekend, I was gonna arrange with the Warp Chatter with LCFR of Masterclass and Agrash of Trader's End. But we had some Discord issues. If you're on Discord, there were some Discord issues on Sunday. It was just kind of hard to get everybody in touch. So we're going to shoot for that this coming Sunday instead, and hopefully get that up Sunday night or maybe Monday morning. We'll just kind of see. So that's up and coming. That's still in the works. Today we're going to be doing a Word Bears card by card. I'm going to go through the whole shebang of the Word Bears, and we're going to take a look, because we don't have the 4th Warlord yet, but we're going to take a look at these guys here and weigh the pros and cons of both of these. Currently, the event, we've got 8 days left to go. The event will decide which one of these ends up being the 4th Warlord. But really quick, just kind of want to touch up, because it's been about a week, I think, since the last thing I did. And I think the last thing I did was just a recruit level demon host. Still got to do recruit level stuff in regards to courage for the Ultramarines, and I don't think there's anything super unique about the Orphans of War that we've already seen, so I won't have to do too much on that. I might just do card by cards when we get to that point. Plus all the wonderful fun Warlord breakdowns, status stuffs, and I gotta tell you guys, yesterday in the shop, Apotheosis was in the shop, and you know I picked up 2 of those sons of bitches. 2 of those sons of bitches. Picked up 2 of them. Do I need to? Why not? Look at this beauty. This is the victory reward from the last event. This is the faction that decided this. This is so many potential possibilities with this card. I'm only missing a few cards from the Orphans of War, and I'm missing the Athame from the Chaos faction from the Cult expansion, which in of itself also opens up a lot of possibilities. And I'll be honest with you, between the new cards, acclimating to the new decks, the changes that were made a week ago, and I didn't even get to do updates on those cards, and the holidays, and the possibilities of Athame and Apotheosis, 4th Warlords, trying to organize chat times, and World Cup is starting this week, so I'm going to be doing World Cup videos of my games. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's a good lot. It's a positive lot. It gives me reason to play, gives me reason to build, test things, play Warlords. I'm playing Ingefell for a few games for challenge, but I'm also throwing in some new cards just to kind of see what they do for the shits of it. And it's been fun, but I'm going to take a vacation from ladder. This is the first time in a year, and I don't play, as I've said repeatedly. I did top 50 a year ago. It's been a year since I was in top 50 last, and I've just enjoyed with my play style as far as ladder games go, just playing for my 5 daily wins in ladder, seeing how I can progress a Warlord through the course of a month, 2 months, and compare them up. And that's been good. I've done that all this year, and it's just, I'm at the point right now in December where I'm going to take a vacation from ladder. I feel like I've earned it. I feel like I can still play and have fun and test around and practice. I'll be going back into ladder in January, refreshed, hopefully, invigorated. Got some ideas already. I don't even have to say ideas. I mean, they're legit decks that are out there currently. But just to kind of give myself a break and a breather from the dailies in ranked play, and just that way it makes it easier for me to balance my time. Because when I'm playing ladder, I like to have some dedicated time during the day. This is all just me talking about myself. I'm not doing a card by card just yet, but I just kind of wanted to touch base and say that. So my 32, 33 is probably going to stay around that point. I'm not pushing myself. I just got to the point where it's like, you know what? The games I get are the games I get. And this month is just too busy, too hectic. We've got holidays. We've got Santa stuff going on. I don't know, maybe I'll do some Santa stuff here. We'll see. We've got the card contest also. Just a quick plug before I get into this here. This is almost the middle of the month, so if you haven't submitted for the deck list contest, we've got that going on. Get out of here, dog. I got a dog on my lap. Infiltration is the theme, and that video was posted 2 videos back, so I'll see if I can link that here if I have the time. But what I have the time for right now is the word bearers, card by card. I have spent probably the last 2 weeks minimum since they've done the changes. I was playing word bearers before that, and then with the changes I played a little bit more casual practice, really having fun with actually all 3 of the warlords. I apologize. Having fun with all 3 of the warlords and their various incarnations, and we'll be talking about that some with some other players here coming up. But I gotta say, as much as I detest the word bearers as a legion, as their lore, as what they did to the Imperium, how far they fell from grace, I really enjoy playing them. They're really fun. They bring something not entirely new, but a fresh approach to it. Demon Host is the new thing that comes with them. That's their special, unique mechanic, which we'll take a look down here. I'll probably just do a quick link to the Demon Host video to kind of break down how that works. But what they've got here is they've got these unique versions of their own mark of chaos that can go on their troops to make them a demon / Astartes, or demon / infantry, depending on who you give it to, which gives them abilities that at the time when the marks of chaos were created weren't implicated, aside from Cleave. Cleave is the only one, well, I guess unstoppable, but you also get Flank. Flank did not exist before that. So you're giving those unique abilities and potentially buffing your troops up a bunch, and there's a lot of units that work that way, but that's not the only way they play. They synergize with demons, which can become themselves as a demon host. They are also count as demons. They synergize with burn. They synergize with swarm, which is kind of a untested, or I can't say untested, kind of a minimally explored aspect in the game, just because of the way that random damage, splash damage, wide range of board clearing effects tend to work. It makes it very hard to do that. But the word bearers have got some ways to counter that. In addition to that, they also can play the long game very well, depending on how your warlord is, how you fuel your deck, and the cards that you choose. So, with that being said, let's get into the warlords. Let's take a look at the warlords first. Now, currently we've got Argoltal. High initiative. That's always good for a 30 health warlord. Now, he's got the unique component here where if you include 15 chaos cards in your deck, instead of starting as Argoltal, you start as Rom. If you don't have the 15 chaos cards, you can still become Rom, which is his demon host. Can't say symbiote, but they're kind of surrogate together. They've bonded. They're more than just a possessed Space Marine. They're a bonded, possessed Space Marine. Normally, if you play Blessed Sun while you're Argoltal, you will heal 5 and you become Rom. And then Rom is not shown here, but Rom is basically a 3-attack warlord. Oh, there he is. 3-attack warlord. He has Unstoppable, and he has a battle honor of healing 2. You can start with that, or you can start with Argoltal's ability. Now, Argoltal's ability seems on the surface like it's 1 to deal 1 damage. If target dies, you can act again. Each time Argoltal kills a unit, and this is on your turn or your opponent's turn, so if they attack you with like a Goldstone or a Face Bash with an infantry unit and it dies, this is reduced -2. Doesn't matter how he kills the unit, with his ability, with an attack, or when they're attacking him, this reduces. It can actually reduce pretty quick. Your hardest matchups are against like Angron or another solo mono warlord who's not going to put down a whole lot of infantry. That does make it hard to reduce that cost to like a 5 or a 3, but it can be done. However, his ability is not bad. You can use it on your opponent's troops. You can use it on your troops. I don't recommend using it on your troops unless you absolutely need to get close to being able to drop your Blessed Sun ability down. But being able to act again against, let's say you've got 2 or 3 units of 1 health, you can clear them all for 3 energy, 2 or 3 energy, and then still either attack or use that ability again on the warlord. It's very cheap and it actually works out fairly well. I've got a version of him and I've got a version of Rom, and they both play fun and they both play differently, and that's great. So not bad, not bad. He offers some options, and I wouldn't downplay him. Erebus. Now Erebus, I'm not even gonna go into the characterization of these characters, because there's some. As much as I detest the word bears, I think some of their characters are probably some of the most intriguing characters, and some of them, like Erebus, are just not. They're just people you want to hate, and he is definitely one that you want to hate. But his ability creates for 2 energy. He's got low initiative, so that's kind of a pain in the butt. But he's got 2 energy. He creates or enlarges a summoning rift. Now, what the summoning rift is for 2 energy, you initially get one of these guys, but they're not considered on the table. They can't be affected by cards that destroy a troop, that damage a troop, that destroy a random, that count it as a troop. So courage would not work while this is considered a portal. You just have Erebus on the table. It's a very unique concept. It kind of makes them completely invulnerable to any effect. Now the downside is it won't become this chaos spawn unless he doesn't spend any energy on his turn to enlarge it. So you can pump it up to a 3/3. On his next turn, you can pay energy, and it becomes a 5/5, and it also gets one of those Demon Host abilities. On his next turn, he pays another 2 energy. It's now a 7/7 with another ability, and so on and so forth, which is fine if you want to keep pumping it up. You don't know what you're going to get, but at the end of your turn, it's still in portal status. So at the start of your turn, it's still in portal status. So the only way for it to be available on your next turn is to not enlarge it at all, and that's typically late game when you dump a large tactic or play several cards. So strategizing with Erebus in terms of how you enlarge your summoning rift or create your summoning rift is part of how he plays. It's very unique. It's very intriguing. He's not bad, but his random factor in terms of how he enlarges the portal and what they get can at times be frustrating. So it's not something that you can entirely rely on. In the same way, you can't necessarily rely on Argel Tal's ability if they're not putting out infantry. But Rom has a reliable 3 attack all the time. So in terms of reliability between the 3 of those, Rom is probably your most reliable. But in terms of potential, if Erebus can get a warded troop out, depending on the matchup of who you're facing, and get them up to a 7 attack, that can be devastating. So not to be underestimated. And then we've got the Primarch, Lorgar Aurelian, who is improved from his previous iteration. His previous iteration was for 2 energy. He would simply give a demon host to an Astartes. I don't even know if he could give it to an infantry. I kind of forget. But now he has the ability to pay 1 and create a dark gift in his hand. So he can basically stack those demon hosts and drop them as he pleases on a turn, across several turns. It's actually much more effective towards his whispers. It's much more effective to enhancing his troops. And then in the event that you control enough demons, you get his whispers form. Now, his whispers is basically costed 16, and it's cost -2 for each demon you have in play. So if you've got 3 demons in play, you can transform for 10 energy. Just a word of advice: if you are ever in a position to transform Lorgar, I recommend doing so. So long as it won't, as long as they can't lethal you on the next turn, because ultimately his whispers, number 1, in addition to healing you 8 and giving you 3 attack, if you lose those demons, his cost can fluctuate. Currently, he's the only one, and I can't include Angron or Vulcan in that because theirs can be set once it's done, once it's unlocked and it's achieved. But his can fluctuate. It can be 16 one turn. It could be 6 the next. It could be 12 the next. It just depends on what demons you have, and if your opponent lets you keep or can't prevent you from keeping those demons on play. Once you turn into Lorgar, you then gain this awesome ability. First off, ignoring the cost of your demons, so you're rewarded for having demons. Then for 1 damage, for 1 energy, you're dealing 2 to 3 damage, which is in of itself is very nice. That can work to clear infantry, clear the board. But if the target dies, you put in play a lesser demon. So not only are you killing a unit, you're gaining a unit. That's a 2 swing. They lose, you gain. But here's what's really nice. Here's what's the way to really make it work. And this shouldn't be news if you've seen people playing Lorig before. You attack with the Nurgling against their warlord. The Nurgling has 1 health left. You use Lorgar's ability to kill that Nurgling. That Nurgling goes to your hand, you gain a demon, and then you play your Nurgling. And now you have 2 units at full health that you don't have to worry about their maintenance, and they took 1 damage. And maybe that's just enough. That's all you need. Maybe you want to go further. Maybe you want to, and the demons that he can get are the lesser demons. That includes the Seducers, which can be a 5/4 fast. It includes the Teloth Changers, who scatter damage. They're notorious. They've got a history. They've been changed many times. Their current iteration is not as strong, but they're still good. You can get the Terror Hounds, Beast of Fyra. Beast of Fyra. Any of those lesser demons, they're all important and powerful in their own right in retrospect. For the cost of 1 energy, that's a powerful ability, and that's why I say if you can transform, do so. Now granted, as a Primarch, he's hard to obtain, but between the 3 of these guys, I've had the most fun, and that's hard. Between actually 4 of them, because I have to count Rom separately, I've had the most fun playing Lorgar, because his turnarounds in games can just be crazy. You'd be like, oh, I don't have any units. Now I've got 5 demons and I'm transformed. And it's game over for you, buddy. I mean, it can be pretty silly. Let's take a moment here and let's take a look at what our what our 4th options could be. Now, depending on how this event goes, we're going to end up with either Sardu Layak or Corfera. And I'll be honest, I don't know what the Enactus Blade does off the top of my head for Sardu Layak. I believe it's 2 energy, and you give a unit 2 Demon Host abilities, and then when they die, you get it back in your hand, if I recall correctly. And then his ability is 2 energy, deal 1 to 2 damage to an enemy and its adjacent units. And that can be 1 damage to that unit, 2 to this one, 2 to that one, or 1, 1, 2. It's random, either which way. 30 health. Medium initiative. It's not that great. I know there are fans who enjoy him. I like the artwork. I don't know anything about the character. Master the Unspeaking sounds pretty cool. But the ability doesn't synergize with the rest of the units that we're going to see. It really doesn't. There's some tactics that it could synergize with, but not enough to really justify it, especially for a 30 health warlord, and you're not getting anything for it. And against a non-troop warlord, your ability is going to be very, very obsolete very quickly. So I don't like it. Corferon, on the other hand, and as we'll see with a lot of the cards, his ability synergizes amazingly well. First off, 35 health. Okay, that's great. Low initiative is terrible. That sucks. However, he's got the ability for 2 to put in a 2-cost cultist. What is a 2-cost cultist? Well, that's any of the chaos cultists that cost 2 in the game. So every turn for 2 energy, he can summon this guy, this guy, this guy, I think even this guy. Does he? Yep, Chaos Cultist. That's 4 different options that he can bring into play for 2 energy every turn. It might be random. You might get something good. You might not get something good. You might get this 4/1 that they can deal with every time. You might get these Horse Occultists who give you Marks of Chaos. You might get these Sacrifice guys. It's completely random, but you're guaranteed to get a unit, and you will need those units for all the wonderful fun things that the Word Bearers cards do. How so? Well, let's just take a look at this one here. First off, rally, give +1/+0 to your infantry troops. Now, this is really basic. This is really for 1 energy. Okay, it's not fantastic, but if you've got 2 or 3 2 2s on the board, and then suddenly they become 3 2s. You're dealing 3 extra damage, 2 or 3 extra damage. That's not bad for 1 energy. That's a terrible example. That's just 1. That's just the lowest cost card. Now this is more for demons. Get +1/+1 to your demons. As far as a tactic goes, that's not bad. I don't include it in my decks, but I think there's a way to make a tactic build and include a couple of these. You want several demons on the table before you play it. But it's not bad, and it's actually one of the few cards that exists in the game, and it's nice that it's for this faction specifically, that pump up demons. So that is good to see. You can turn a Beast of Fire into a 5/6. What's to dislike about that? There's nothing to dislike about that. So going back really quick to Corpheron, see, it offers a lot more potential. I hope that this tilts in the next 8 days and 9 hours, and he's who we end up with. In terms of how all 4 of them rank up, I still would prefer Lorgar over all of them, but probably Corpheron over Erebus, and then Erebus, Argoltal. Argoltal is just a little bit harder to pilot, to be honest with you. So, now Daggertall bikes. Daggertall bikes, they're 2, 3, 2 flank. They're really kind of just your quick and cheap if you don't have a Goldstones. These guys are your alternate, cheaper version. They're not fast. They're just going to hit troops. They're not bad, but a Seek and Destroy does the same thing. Depending on your deck and your tactics, you may prefer one or the other. These aren't required in every deck, but they're okay. And the Dark Blessing was recently changed. This initially started out as just Reflection, give a Demon Host. Now it gives Demon Host and +1/+0. So you suddenly have an ability. The more energy you have, the more pumps you can put on a unit. You could very well give a unit 4 Demon Hosts, as well as +4/+0 for 8 energy. And then depending on what else it already has on it, if it already has other Demon Host abilities, then once you max out, you start getting those Demonic Muscles, and then you start getting +2/+2, which would actually be +3/+2. Has a lot of unique potential. I don't think it's going to work with every deck, but it's worth considering for certain decks, especially if you don't have some of the higher rarity cards, or if you don't have Lorgar, as just having as a pinch and transforming a unit into just a massive monstrous machine before it attacks. It's a decent card. It's decent. I would probably say one of, if you're building around a certain style, maybe 2 of, but Reflection, you can get so many uses out of just 1 if you time it correctly. So not bad. It's a good card. Brawl Squad is your common 2/3 unstoppable. Nothing flashy, nothing substantial about these guys. You see them in some of the event decks. You probably get them in a starter deck. I pass. In terms of your 2-drops, we'll be coming up to one that I prefer to include, much more so. Now, Heralds of Truth has got some interesting potential depending on how you start it. If you get it in your hand and you are able to drop some stuff early on, Heralds of Truth can give your troops all sacrifice, add a lesser demon to your hand, which is great if you've got 3 or 4 troops that you're about to attack with and die, and you get a bunch of demons for the rewards over it. For the cost, it's not bad. But you have to watch how you play it, obviously, and if you don't have any units, then you can't play Heralds of Truth. So it's if your opponent can't do anything about it, you can get some rewards for it. If they can, then you're stuck with a card that doesn't do anything for you. Terran Reality, I want to suggest this is a 2 of in most of the Word Bearers decks. There are a couple variants that you probably would not include 2 of, but it's so powerful. It's so powerful. In de facto, it is a removal option. It doesn't destroy the card, however. It returns one of your troops and a random enemy troop to the deck. Now you get to pick which troop. Just like Sedition's Gate for the World Leaders, you get to pick which troop that you are returning, and then you get one randomly. Well, if they've only got one on the board, guess which one is randomly going back to their deck. This works really great with a Pi Alpha, healing yourself and then putting them back in your deck, using Ekritrez a couple times and then putting them back in your deck. You do have to have a unit to use this card. You can't just play that card. You've got to have a unit to use that card. Put in a mortar carrier or a unit that's on 1 health left that you've gotten maximum value out, put it back in your deck. In a pinch, you can use it for your higher cost cards, your 4 or 5s. If you really need to go that way, it doesn't matter. But its effect can be so powerful, getting rid of that nasty, I'm trying to think. I want to say Autek more, but also, who's the 9/9 Legionary for Alpha Legion? Barbara Stantiok for the Orphans of War. Any of the big nasty Iron Hands guys. They can still draw them on the next turn. They could still draw Artillery Score. That's who I'm thinking for the Alpha Legionary. They could still draw them on the next turn and play them again, but depending on the pace of the game and the cards in the deck, maybe not. And on top of it, because it's a 2 cost, you can follow up, especially those late games. You can play a Terran Reality, get rid of their big nasty, and pop something that's a decent cost card on your own turn as well, so you still have energy to put stuff down, and that's great. So again, just a great rare. I can't even say what's the best rare. There's some good stuff in their faction. So now Zexal Squad, these are the guys that I prefer in terms of 2 cost cards for troops, because they synergize with every warlord, whether that is Erebus, who wants to have some distractions so he can continue his warp rift, Lorig, who wants to have ways to sacrifice for demons and put things on board and make his guys demon hosts, Argoltal, who in a pinch, if you really needed to, could put down 2 wounded zealots and then kill those wounded zealots with his ability and lower his blessed sun cost. These guys just are handy, and what's more fun than dropping Zexal Squad, getting 3 units, paying 2 energy, putting 1 of those back, and getting rid of your opponent's big nasty, still having 2 units on the board for 4 energy. Okay, that's not too shabby. So I like these guys. If you've got Corpheron, you can have for 4 energy, you can pay 2 to get a cultist and then drop these 2 and then get 2 others, and then suddenly for 4 energy you've got 5 units on the board. Again, that's a lot of value. That's one reason why I really think Corpheron is the better choice. So I like these guys. Dark Oratory. Now, in combination with having a lot of units on the board, 2 or 3 units on the board for Dark Oratory, you draw 2 cards, and every tactic drawn gives +1/+0 to your troops. Now, you kind of have to know that your deck has a decent amount of tactics for it. You're still getting 2 cards, so that's nice. For 3, you're drawing 2 cards, but the great reward is if you're able to up your troops by their attack by 2, and then suddenly if you've got 2 or 3 units and all their attack goes up by 2, you suddenly just have an additional 6 damage, 6 to 8 damage on the board, depending. 4 to 6, 4 to 6, 4 to 8, whatever. Fanatical Zeal is a common, at first glance it doesn't seem like it's fit. Heal 3. But healing should not be underrated, especially in a pinch, especially when you've got some of these beefier units that you're going to see here, or you've maxed out a Portal Rift and you've given it ward and you want to keep it around for a long time, and there's nothing that your opponent can damage it with tactic-wise, and they've got to throw buys at. So if you're healing 3, you're healing 3 to your warlord, and you're healing 3 to all your units for the same cost as a Pi Alpha. Now, granted, the Pi Alpha removes stun and heals that just on 1 unit. For the same cost, you're getting 3 without the stun removal to all your units, which is very possible multiple units with the word bearers, that they have a very good chance at having 2 or 3 units on the board through many of their games. Some games you can get up to the 6 count. It's possible. Now, Gorham Squad is again another unit here that synergizes well with potentially Corpheron, but also with the Zexal Squad, right? Comes in, destroy friendly infantry, not Astartes, but an infantry, and then he gains Demon Host twice, which could be who knows what buffs. He could become, have Survivor 3, he could have Clave 2, he could have Flank, he could have both of those things. 2 combinations of those. He could have Ward and Survivor 3, which is really nice. All for 3, and maybe 5 if you do it in the same turn, or 5 if you use him and Corpheron's ability, which is still decent sticking. Now, stat-wise, that's not fantastic. He's got a 3/3, but he does become a demon, which leaves him possible for cards such as that, or you can continue to Dark Bless him on your next turn and fill out his whole array of demon host buffs. So a lot of potential for a cheap cost card that's not too bad. Here's another guy who somehow miraculously synergizes with Corpheron. Kolek support. Now, I'll be honest, the ability seems great. Relentless. Destroy friendly infantry and deal 5 damage to the enemy warlord. It's harder to do than you think, and for a couple reasons. Now, number one, it's their stats. Their own stats is a 3/3. They're very easy to kill. A Seek and Destroy, Abaddon, which nobody sees Abaddon enough, but he can do it. Widespread damage tactics. There's just a lot of things that can take these guys out in one shot. Or if you really want to, you could take out the cheaper cost infantry guys that maybe have even less health, which makes it hard for that ability to trigger. On the plus side, they do have front line, so they do act as a buffer. I think in some decks they work well. They would work decently as a distraction in the Corpheron deck. I don't know how many times I'm going to say Corpheron here, but it's going to be a lot more. They're okay. But I'll tell you what, you take that 5 damage once, and you will find a reason to get rid of these guys. They're not bad. There's better choices depending on what you've got, but they're not bad. Now, Sore Backfall. This guy is like the improved version of dropping Zexal Squad, and then you drop Heralds of Truth. You're like, all right, I'll get 3 lesser demons. Well, you could just drop Sore Backfall, or as we like to call him, Little Sore, and then just turn all 3 of these guys immediately into Chaos Spawns when they die. And then just like that, you've got 3 Chaos Spawns who are 3/3s. They have maintenance 1, but if you've got, the Book of Lorgar, or if you are Lorgar yourself, you won't have to worry about that. So he's got a lot of synergy with those weenie sacrifices. And it's not even a sacrifice. It's just when that troop dies, which many times the opponent will either overlook it or you've given them a hard choice. What I love doing is I love having Sarbak Paul down and Jubak down side by side. And you could throw other options out there too. But that's just the easiest one to give it. Okay, you want to kill the Sarbak Paul. He's got 4 health. Can you kill him? If you can, how many cards are you going to take? 1 or 2? 2 and a face strike to kill this guy? Or are you going to kill Jubak, who's going to give me more cards, but at the same time potentially give me another 3/3 troop? Ultimately, they tend to go with him, but when they don't, they really regret the choice. And even then, if you can make it a harder choice with having a front line to prevent him, or just having multiple other units that they can't ignore, it really makes it hard. Late game, he can change the tide. If you've got several units that are low health, that are not demons, you can regain a bunch of fresh health troops. Early game, you can really swing an advantage really quickly when your opponent thinks that, okay, some 1/1 guys, and now they're 3/3s after they've taken the damage from those attacks. A Torrential Squad, these guys, I don't like them as much as some of the other troops that gain Demon Host. They are cheap for 3 cost, and they're 3/4, and they have Unstoppable, and that's great. But Battle Honor is hard to do multiple times successfully. While it's possible for them to come out and then kill a unit and then gain Demon Host and maybe gain Survivor 3 so they can do that again and gain a second Demon Host, they're probably only going to get 1, 2 at best. 3 if your opponent's playing like 1/1 troops, like really weak troops. Or if you found a way to pump up their stats. But that requires a lot of cards, a lot of focus for these guys when you could just get better versions and better Demon Host units out there. They're not bad. They're not fantastic. Ashen Circle. These guys are good. These guys are good for a couple reasons. Now, again, look at that. They synergize with the Corpheron because they can destroy friendly infantry and gain fast, which in of itself is great, right? 4 attack to your face. 4 attack to take care of that unit, 4 attack to finish the game, and the game, it's a fast, and it's unstoppable, which is, those two together is like unstoppable fast, what's not to like. But then you get to the sacrifice portion, which caps it even further. Deal 2 damage to all enemies. Apologize. So, for 4 energy, if you've already got an infantry on the table, you can take out a 6 health troop and deal 2 damage to the rest of the opponent's board. If you don't have infantry, but you have these guys in hand, for 6 energy, you can do the exact same thing. Take out a 6 health troop, deal 2 damage across the opponent's board. These guys are, I don't want to say must, but these are a very strong card, and these are very worth considering, and their value is great. Even if you don't get to use their sacrifice, the fact that you're hitting something for 4 that your opponent has to respond to on the next turn is worth it. I would not recommend playing these guys if you cannot use their fast, unless it's like end game and you're just looking for something on the board. Now, Book of Lorgar has been changed since I spoiled it at the beginning of the Word Bear's release. Same ability in terms of ignoring the maintenance cost of your demons. However, now it gains the add 2 lesser demons to your hand, which is really good because your deck, you know, if you're building around demons, you've got to put demons in your deck, and it's kind of hard. Then you got to pick and choose. Do I play a demon? I don't have any troops. I'm going to play this thing, but am I going to get any reward for it? I don't have any demons in my hand. And this changes it up by giving you 2 demons in your hand that you'll be able to utilize on your next turn, or that turn if it's a late enough game, that you can ignore the maintenance cost. And again, those demons can be all the lesser demons, Beast of Fire included. Seducers, it's nice getting 2 seducers from the Book of Lorgar, because suddenly you've got 10 fast damage in your hand. That is just nasty. So really good, really improved from what it was. Does it go in every deck? No. I don't have it. I don't think I have it in my Argyle Tall. I don't think I have it in my ROM, because I'm not playing with demons so much. I'm playing with a lot of other Astartes, vehicles, things like that. However, with Erebus, definitely with Lorgar, and depending on how you go with the 4th Warlord choice, you could very well have cause and reason to put in a Book of Lorgar. It's one of those legendaries that doesn't go in every deck. However, it does have its value if you build with the idea of how you're going to play it. It doesn't have to be played every game, but if you play it on curve, you are in a winning position, because you can drop a Destroyer of Worlds and not have to worry about that nasty maintenance. I mean, that's just the way to go. I like it. So, good card. Now, these guys on stats, I like the art here for the Gaelic squad. I do. I'm not a fan of the studs on the Astartes like face necessarily, but I like the pose. I like the dueling. I like the armor. I'll give it that. But the 3 health kills me. I'm not a fan of 3 health 4 drops, because they're very disposable. You might not get the value. Yes, it's got sneak attack. Yes, it's 5. I don't include these in my decks. I just don't. I can't. I'd rather go between the 2. I'd rather have an Ashen Circle, who I can have as a fast. Even though his health will become a 2, or he'll die on the turn I bring him out, he's going to have an immediate effect, whereas this guy could just put him out there and he's going to get beast. Or I could play this guy here. We'll get to him in just a sec. Now, Harbinger Chaos, this is the Word Bear's version. If you go back to the original 4 Astartes Legions, they all had a variant that gave a Mark of Chaos to their troops. Mark of Chaos and attack +1, or perfection +1/+1, or Berserk and Mark of Chaos. Well, these give them Demon Host instead of Mark of Chaos. But what's also nice about this is it gives it to your infantry troops too. And as we've seen with the Demon Host abilities, you could suddenly have 3 or 4 units with Ward, 3 or 4 units with Survivor 3, which is nothing to scoff at. Now, it's not Survivor 1, it's Survivor 3, with Flank. It depends on what you're playing. Cleave to that's a decent card if you're building around enough infantry and Astartes. I wonder, I wonder if there's a warlord who can bring out like infantry for 2 energy on a consistent basis. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who it could be. I'm just thinking the old church lady from Saturday Night Live. I won't say it. My voice it's late. I can't be loud. Janma Squad. Now these guys, I pointed out earlier as far as 4 cost, I prefer Janma Squad over Gaelic Squad. Same health, less attack. However, at the end of your turn, you put in play Horus Occultist. So for 4 energy, you are getting 2 units. You're getting him plus a Horus Occultist who can give you a Mark of Chaos. But what you're also doing is then you're creating 2 targets that your opponent has to deal with. Nobody likes Marks of Chaos. But I can't just kill that Horus Occultist. I've got to kill this Janma Squad, because otherwise the Janma Squad will just keep making more Horus Occultists. Can they? Can they do it with the splash damage with the defensive satellites or an artillery strike? Can they not? It's hard to say, but you get more value out of those guys. They don't go in every deck, but I think if you're looking for a way to get more infantry on the board, they're definitely a way to go. Now, Raising of Monarchia, I don't like this card. I pass on this card. I've seen it in events. I've seen a couple people play it. Theoretically, you're like, oh, I'll get +1/+1 to all Astartes in my deck. And even if you have a lot of Astartes, there's not enough Astartes to make it worthwhile for 4 energy. More importantly, you're not drawing a card. You're giving up a big turn. At 4 energy, you should be playing a Book of Lorgar or National Circle or Janma Squad. Maybe even Sorbackball and using like a Demon Host ability, a demon, for a gift of Dark Gift, right? A Dark Gift from Lorgar. You're giving up an awful lot to give it to Astartes in your deck, not in your hand, and then you're not getting anything for it. So I don't like that card. Zexal Squad is a good card. Good stats: 4 health, 4 attack, 4 defense, 4 cost, and for 1 energy, you put in play 2 Righteous Zealots who can then, when they die, create those 1/1, wounded zealots. That's a powerful unit. For a common, this is not to be laughed at. This is not to be scoffed at. This is a good card. And as you can keep him protected, shrouded, hidden, whatever the case may be, or other targets out there, he can continue to create those cultists, and you can continue to use those cultists every turn for your sacrifices, for Sore Backpaw, for your Ashen Circle, however you choose to have them be. So very powerful card, very good card. Borgatal support. These guys were decently strong in the events that I played with them. If you can get them on the table and they can deal 4 damage, that's very impressive. For 2, that's very nice. However, in normal play, they just end up getting outshrouded. They can be bounced with a Melgator. 6 health is nothing to scoff at, but that 4 attack makes them Melgatorable. And so they kind of just get squeaked out. Now, who's not Melgatorable? You guys cost 1 more. No, they cost the same. Dark Brethren is a 5/4, and they gain Demon Host when an enemy dies, which, if you time it right, you can drop these, kill a unit or 2, depending on what you've got on board, and then these guys immediately gain 2 Demon Hosts. It's entirely possible to have this unit really creep up in Demon Hosts very fast in terms of their ability. So, definitely a good way to go. Now, the counter to that, I can't say counter, but the opposite of that is the Diabolus Vol, who gains Demon Host when they come in, but then when a friendly unit dies, they get +1/+0 to your demons, which includes them because they've got Demon Host. So if you bring them in for 5, they gain Demon Host. Maybe it's Ward, maybe it's Survivor, maybe it's just Flank. But then you kill one of your units with that attack, and now he's a 5/5, and any other demons you've got on the table are up 1 attack too. He can swing a Diabolus Vol late game, can very quickly swing the impact that your troops can have if you have enough demons. If you don't have a lot of demons, then Dark Brethren is probably the better way to go. If you're playing with a lot of demons like a Lorgar deck, Diabolus Vol is a stronger choice. And Camille is just a great tactic. This is just a powerful tactic. It's their 4 damage, or it's their mass damage tactic. I can't say mass damage. It's not a Vengeful Spirit. It's not Pride of the Emperor. But for 5, they're dealing 4 damage. And if it dies, if the target dies, they deal 2 damage to all other enemies, which is a great way to kill a big unit, or a 4 health unit, and then kill several 2 health units. This is a much better choice than defensive satellites, in my opinion. Defensive satellites is board wide, but you don't know what you're going to get. This way here, you can very easily control it. For 6 energy with a Camille and Argyle Tall, you can control how the damage gets splashed, and then you can use his ability to pick off survivors, drop his cost for the transformation. It's a very powerful card. I like that. I think it should be 2 of Index. Late game, 10 energy, that's 8 damage. That's 8 damage on a Warlord, so that's nothing to scoff at. Now, Kurthus said, very rarely do I get to use his ability, and it's a pain in the butt. Unfortunately, he's immune to Melgator, which is great. His sacrifice is so crazy. Put in play a Greater Demon. That can be a lot of things. I think I've only gotten to use it twice, and one of those times it was a Devourer of Worlds, so that was fantastic. However, he is a big target for just that reason, which is okay if you play him knowing that he's a big target. And that works very well if you've got several units down that are targets, that haven't quite died yet. Your opponent has to make some choices. And with the Word Bearers, it's very possible to have multiple units out there. So it's not like you're just dropping Kurthus Head. You're putting Kurthus Head down. You might still have 2 other units out there that are alive. Or you put down Kurthus Head and you give him Demon Host. And then you give him, who knows, maybe he ends up with Ward. So now your opponent's really got to get tricky as far as how they deal with him. He's not bad, but do not expect to see his ability happen too often. And if at best, you might get 1 attack out of him. And if you're really, really lucky, your opponent will have something on the table that you can use that to gain the sacrifice from. Ronger Squad is not bad stat-wise. But just like Kurthus said, I don't think you're going to get these guys out. They don't have protection. They give +1/+1 to your demons if you get the sacrifice, but I don't think you're going to get that sacrifice off. It's hard to do. And really, when the 5 cost options get weighed as far as those choices go, and then Secret Devotion, which Secret Devotion is the next card line here, putting in play a random 2 cost cultist. It's kind of like the Chaos version of the Ornitov's Barge, which isn't bad. It's not great. I'd pass on that for Camille any day. Damage over bodies that can't do anything. I prefer that. If I had to choose between, it's really just a tough choice at the 5 cost range. So Ronger Squad is going to get weighed out. If you don't have these rare guys or the legendaries, then Ronger Squad is not a bad choice if you have demons. If you don't have demons, then I would say go with Bargotal support. We talked about Secret Devotion. Now, Dark Channeling is kind of like the epic version of Book of Lorgar. Book of Lorgar becomes the legendary variant. It costs 2 less. You get 2 demons, but then you forever ignoring the cost of maintenance, whereas here you're getting 3 demons, but they cost less initially. If you have Book of Lorgar and you're thinking about putting Dark Channeling in your deck, I would just say, just put Book of Lorgar in there and put some extra demons in there. For 6 cost, you're not gonna, unless you're playing like an Erebus all tactics variant, you're really not going to gain enough out of this to appreciate it. You're going to lose a lot of momentum for 6 energy. Book of Lorgar is better. It's a not bad feature. It's not a bad feature, but I guess I shouldn't compare the cards 2 by 2. It's okay for an epic, but I wouldn't put it in every deck unless I knew exactly what I was doing with it. I would rather have Destiny's Hand. And this is a rare. This is 1 step down, but the abilities with this, 2 damage to all units, which includes your side, for good and bad, but for good. For each unit killed, put in play a Chaos Spawn. So for 8 energy, again, going back to the Zexal Squad, for 8 energy you can get 3 Chaos Spawns, plus whatever it is that you get from the opponent's side of the board. So you kill 3 of theirs, You kill 3 of yours, you're up 6 units, they're down 3. Do the math. It's not, that's they can counter it with astral warfare or defensive satellites on the next turn and maybe get lucky on some of them, but not all of them. Not all of them. And that's nothing to scoff at. Having a board full of demons just staring you in the face. This is a good card. Now, Melnor Squad. Talk about a good card if you're building a deck with infantry. And if you've been playing the event, you know that there is a Chaos Warlord who has the ability to put out infantry. And it just happens to be Corpheron, who has got a deck that puts out maximum use on those guys. Puts out amazing amount of infantry, not just with his ability, but with the rest of the deck. And if you can have Melnor Squad stick around, you can really just control the board with your bodies and your troops, and whether it's having 3/3 righteous zealots who are frontline, so even when they die, you still get a 2/2 wounded zealot at frontline, which is powerful, or 3/4 horse occultist, for 2 energy. These guys are really good if you're building the deck for it, and if you happen to have a warlord, who we end up getting, who, I don't know, I mean, it's worth considering. These guys synergize so well. But if you're not, they still synergize well in like a ROM deck, or even an Argyltal to some degree. More so in ROM, because ROM, you're going to include more chaos cards anyways. Possessed Marine. First off, Ward is nothing to scoff at. It's very strong. Stat-wise, these guys are great. They've got 5 attack. They've got 6 health. It's going to take your opponent several cards with these guys having Ward to get rid of them. And if they cannot, they're going to get punished for it. Not just because of the 5 attack, but because these guys have got Cleave 2 as well. So they're going to deal 5 damage, ideally between this and whatever you follow it up with on your next turn. You can clear your opponent's board and continue to wreak madness. I honestly suggest having 2 of these in the decks, even though they're 6 cost and it's hard to make value out of 6. I really enjoy it when they stick, and they usually do, even if it's only 1 turn. Even if your opponent blows like a 5 cost flanker at him, right, and then kills him, and then has to take the face bash to get rid of him. They've taken 5 damage. These guys have done their work. They can't get burned by a tactic. They can't get burned by lucky defensive satellites. It's going to take more than that to get rid of these guys. They're very strong. And this is a great... This card also was... the Architect of Heresy was recently updated. Initially, it was just take control of an enemy infantry or Astartes or stun another unit, which could include the opponent's warlord, which for 7 is like, eh. But now... And it still says stun off to the side of that. It shouldn't. That shouldn't be displayed there. Just cover that up. Pretend that doesn't exist. Or return another enemy troop to a hand. So, first off, your opponent has got a big, nasty, barbarous Dantioch, right? Not anymore. He's yours. Great. Fantastic for 7 energy. I just got your 9 cost big bad guy. I don't get his. I would get a rally effect if it was a Tillen Scorp. I still have your I still have your nasty, right? That's mean. But what if you've got enough stuff on board, but your opponent's got a front line? Okay, well now if it's a frontline vehicle, it goes back to their hand, or you just make that front line your front line. Or if it's a demon, like a Yuria, the Seducer, or even a Devourer of Worlds, it goes back up to their hand. So it's not just stunned, they've got to start the whole process over again. They're going to have to spend all their energy on the next turn to bring it back out to get that effect. I think it got a lot stronger, and the options open up for it. It's not a kill you now, it's not a vengeful spirit, it's not a Pride of the Emperor. You already kind of have some damage effects and tactics already in the board. That is just the linchpin, that is just the, aha, you shouldn't have put that big guy down because I've corrupted him to chaos and now he's mine. And I like it. I think it's a lot better version of the Whispers of Chaos from the Sons of Horus, which is a 10 cost, and you gain control of any unit. So for 3 energy more of any troop. But this one here, it's cheaper, and if you can't get it, then your opponent has to play it all over again, and that sometimes is enough to rout the game. Now, Balthamar's Sword, this is their hard removal card. We already looked at Terran Reality, which is a cheap version to, it's kind of like a soft hard removal. This is the straight hard removal. For 7, destroy an enemy and stun the enemy warlord. I think that's fair. I think that's a good card. I don't know if you would have 2 of it in your deck. I like to have 1 Architect and 1 Balthamar's Sword. If you don't have an Architect, maybe a second Balthamar's Sword. Definitely 2 Terran Reality. But it's comparable to the Space Wolves, Ragnarok. I think that's fair. I think you're for same cost. This one here is stunning adjacent units, when this one for the Word Bearers is just stunning the Warlord, which may or may not be the adjacent unit. I think that's fair. I think that's fair, because even if the Warlord is stealthed, like Conrad Kurz, or has ward, like a Whispered Lehman Russ, you're still stunning them. Still has an effect. So it's still powerful. I like it. Now, Captain Apostle, this is another guy who can ratchet up the demon host on your starties. He's very high cost, and you don't gain his benefit immediately. He's got to survive until your next turn and then attack, and then you've got to have Astartes to get demon host. Now, granted, he'll get it too, because he's already an Astartes himself. But I'll be honest, and this is one of those few exceptions. This is an epic guy, but I prefer Dark Martyr so much better. And I know that's a little crazy. Same cost card, right? 1 less attack, but he has a rally. On rally, he gains demon host, which right out the gate he can gain ward. He can gain Survivor 3. He can gain Cleave 2, and then as a relentless, he's going to gain Demon Host. He doesn't even have to attack. So even if you stun him, okay, he's just going to get nastier. If I'm playing Lorgar and I've got 3 in hand, 3 Dark Gifts in hand at 10 energy, I can drop Dark Martyr. He gains a Demon Host, and then I can give him 3 more Demon Hosts, which could potentially will increase the likelihood that I am going to get Ward and Survivor and Cleave and and flank if I need it. I like these guys more, honestly. It's one of those rare exceptions where I think the common is better than the epic, and I really do, and it's gonna come as a shock, or maybe it won't be as a shock. If you've played Dark Martyr enough, you might have the appreciation for it, but I really do think that Dark Martyr is probably the best common in the Word Bearer's arsenal. That's just my personal take on it. Yes, they're high cost, but they draw heat, their value is great, and their potential for sticking and making a massive impact late game is fantastic. I really enjoy playing those guys, and I love the artwork too. So there, I said it. Now, Colima the Annunaki, I don't like. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't like it. He's a vehicle. Okay. He cost 8. Okay. Rally, destroy a friendly infantry and gain frontline and +2/+0. Now that's nice, right? We've got ways to have infantry, so that's not unusual from what we've already seen. But he doesn't pop for me. He doesn't have ward. He doesn't have anything automatic. You have to kill one of your units to gain frontline and +2 attack, and that's it. I don't like it. Mutant Astartes, for the same cost, you've got Cleave 4, much nastier health. You're not a vehicle, so you're not susceptible to Melta-Bomb or Earthsea Malevolus. However, at the end of your turn, you have to destroy another random friendly troop. Well, if you don't have any random friendly troops, then I don't think it destroys him. I've never been in that position. I think you still get a 10/10 for 8 energy. Comparatively, these two guys are kind of that rule where the better rarity is better. And for 9, Sor Talgron, or Big Sor, is really good. You do have to have, first off, he's a legendary. You do have to have Astartes in your deck. If you just have a bunch of infantry or a bunch of tactics, then he's just a 7/7 frontline for 9, which in that case, maybe you do want to use Kalim for 1 cost less, kill your infantry and make But if you have Astartes, you can really open up for 9 energy. You can still play a Soar and draw up a Zexal and play a Zexal on the same turn because they cost 0, and then you have 4 bodies, one of them being a 7/7 frontline. Now, Sword doesn't stick around too often as a frontline unit. They usually take a big brunt of attacks, but depending on where you are in the game, if you've drawn your Dark Martyr and he's now a 5 cost, and you've drawn your Possessed Marine and he's now a 4 cost, you can play both of those on the next turn together, plus give a dark gift to a Dark Martyr, and then suddenly you've got 2 big fat possessed Marines just and depending on who your opponent is and what warlord they're running, that's nice. Or just drop a Kurthus set for 3. There's a lot of potential. There's a lot of potential with Sword depending on what Astartes you have in your deck. I like, and there's been only a couple games, but I like being able to get him from like an abandoned supplies. So I get him for 7, and then with him, I get 3 other Astartes for less than 2. It's just like, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Very good legendary. And then you've got the Mara Gull Dreadnought. I picked these guys up. These guys were in the store the other day. This is another card that I revealed. This has not changed stat-wise. It is very impressive, but it's very hard to get to with Word Bearers. 10 energy, even with the supply lines, which is the new tactic that reduces the cost of a vehicle. You get a vehicle, you can get them out for 8. That's nice. It's hard though. It's hard to make it stick. If you can, and there's been event games that I've gotten him out, and he carries his weight. He carries his weight very nicely. But it's harder to do because of the cost and because how the rest of the faction works. Between big, heavy epics, I cap it at 7 with Dark Martyr, and I have 1 Sor Talgron. I think if you built your deck decently enough, you could find a way to make him work, but I don't know if you enjoy it as much. A lot of the power operates in the 4 and 5 cost range for the Word Bearers, in which at 10 energy you can play 2 cards for amazing synergy. Camille, and then for the same turn 2 Camille's, or Camille and a Dark Brethren. Play Dark Brethren, then play Camille, kill 3 of their units, and then suddenly Dark Brethren gains 3 demon hosts. Book of Lorgar, and then Ashen Circle, and Zexal Squad for 10 energy. I mean, there's a lot more combinations at the 4 and 5 level, 8 energy range. So when you're over that 7 energy, you really want to get the most value out of it. It's hard to do that at 10 energy when you might want to play several other cards to begin with. So it's hard to make it work. In terms of legendaries, I would probably say, it's such a tough call, but I would probably say Architect of Heresy or Big Sor are probably their best legendaries. So if you're looking to get into Word Bearers and you see either of those in the shop, you're not going to regret picking them up. Architect of Heresy you'll get a little bit more play out of than Sor, because he's not going to come up every game, or if you do have him, you might not make it to 9. Kurthus said, as I said, you're not going to get his ability a whole lot. He's probably, stat for stat, he's a great stat card, but he's probably the second lowest in terms of must have. Book of Lorgar is a situational deck. If you're not playing with demons, you can pass over that. You won't miss anything by not having the Book of Lorgar in your deck. So there you go. There you have it. That is the Word Bearers. They offer a lot. They offer a lot of bodies. They offer a lot of things happen, and they've got a lot of ways to buff up in different ways than just giving +1/+1, +2/2. They can still do that. They can definitely still do that. I mean, because if they've got demon hosts, they're demons, and you can give them a Testamentum Veritas, and now they're +1/+1 demons. But giving your guys Survivor 3 that's nice. Giving them Ward, that's nice. Giving them Cleave 2 when they've already got Cleave 2, and then they become Cleave 4. That's with Ward already. I mean, I just enjoy playing them, and they feel unique, and they feel like they evolve on the battle when you're playing with them. It's not just playing a tactic. You're saying, okay, how can I corrupt my guys? How can I corrupt my opponent's board? How can I, fill my ranks? And it's been fun playing them, and I'm looking forward to talking with some players this weekend, kind of going into depth in terms of how each version of us have been playing them specifically. But they're nice. They're a breath of fresh air, and I never thought I would say that, but I'm glad that they're in the game. I've had fun with them, and they're not bad. First glance, a lot of people are like, they're weak. They don't have, crazy powerful stuff, but they don't need to. If you build your deck right and you synergize right, you can really catch your opponent unawares. I've had plenty of fun games, winning and losing, but plenty of wins with all the warlords. And I think that's a good sign of a strong but balanced faction. I don't think there's anything in here that seems over the top or massively underwhelming. If you're building your stuff right, you're going to get value. There's several units here that have the potential to put out more units, which in of itself is nice, or give you more cards in hand, which in of itself is great. But then how you play the rest of your game and evolve and capitalize on your opponent's weak spots and swing them down, you up, is really really nice than just, okay, well, I got my gold stone, I put sweeping advance out there, and that's the damage that I'm putting out there this turn, and I've got more damage than you. There are decks that play that, but these guys play it a little bit more differently. And if you're not paying attention, or you're catching yourself unawares, your Diablos Vol can very quickly give yourself 4 or 5 5 attack chaos spawns. That's a lot of damage coming at you because you got overly ambitious or cocky, or you didn't realize or didn't think that these guys shouldn't be underestimated. Kind of in the same way in the lore, how the word bears they weren't the butt of jokes, but they were kind of not really. There wasn't a whole lot of high expectations from them, and then once they emerged, transformed and repurposed for the dark gods, they really put some people on notice. So I think they definitely have done so in the game too, and hopefully giving you some pointers, giving you some ideas in terms of what to consider, how to weigh the card choices which you're playing. And I honestly like how each of the warlords plays completely differently. You can definitely, most factions have got that, but there are some factions where it just kind of bleeds. You're getting the epic version of the Primarch versus the Primarch if you don't have the Primarch. All three of these guys do things differently, completely differently, and you build decks completely differently for them. And I haven't even talked too much about Rom. I mean, I talked a little bit about him, but he's a 4th warlord technically, and then we've got a 5th warlord for them. So kudos to the word bearers, kudos to every guild for doing I think honestly a good job here. So, and that's not hard to say. I enjoy the game, so I'm free with compliments, but I am surprised to say it in regards to the word bearers, because I'm not a word bearers fan. So with that being said, I'm out of here, guys. I will talk to you next time. We've got a whole bunch of stuff, like I said earlier, coming up. I've got a busy time, but I'm trying to make the most of it, and I'm going to keep putting out stuff. World Cup, Warp Chatter, Word Bears Week 2, card by card for Ultramarines, Cal cards. If they do any more updates, I'm going to try to have some time to get on them. I've just not had the time to put up videos breaking down the updates like I used to. I will get back on that. And in the meantime, I'm going to have fun in practice mode with all these guys. Which, oh yeah. I'm having fun in a game. Imagine that. Look at that. That's an empty deck slot, right? It is. It's reserved. That deck slot is reserved for a special project. There it is. It's beautiful. It's beautimous. Alright guys, that's it for me. Keep playing Legions. We'll talk to you there. Bye.